The day my husband looked at me like a stranger was the day I knew something had been taken from us, something quiet, something precious, something I couldn't name yet. It was raining outside, the kind of soft drizzle that tapped gently against the kitchen window. I was standing by the sink, rinsing rice for dinner, when I felt his eyes on my back. Not the warm, familiar gaze I had known for years. This one was heavy, distant. "Amara," he said slowly, "we need to talk." My hands froze in the cold water. There are moments in life when your body knows before your mind does. My chest tightened, my heart skipped, just once. I turned around. He was sitting at the dining table, his shoulders stiff, his jaw clenched. My mother-in-law, Ruxana, sat beside him, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her face was calm, too calm. The clock on the wall ticked loudly between us. I dried my hands on my dupatta and walked over. "What's wrong?" I asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Instead, Ruxana cleared her throat. "Beta," she said gently, using that sweet tone she reserved for serious moments, "your husband has been very patient, but we cannot keep pretending anymore." Pretending. The word echoed in my ears. My husband finally looked up at me. His eyes were tired, hurt. "The doctor confirmed it today," he said. "You can't have children." For a second, the room spun. What?" I whispered. "Don't make this harder," he said, rubbing his forehead. "My mother showed me the reports." I turned toward her. "Reports?" My voice trembled. "What reports?" She sighed as if burdened with sorrow. "We didn't want to hurt you," she said. "But after so many years, after all the treatments, after all the prayers, we had to accept the truth." I felt the air leave my lungs. "But I had miscarriages," I said quickly. "The doctor said—" "Those pregnancies were weak," she interrupted gently. "Your body cannot carry a child. It's not your fault. Some women are just born that way." My husband pushed his chair back and stood up. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" he asked sharply. "Why did you keep giving me hope?" Tears burned in my eyes. "I didn't know. I swear. The doctors always said there was still a chance." Ruxana shook her head slowly. They were just being kind. The clock kept ticking. Something inside me whispered that this wasn't right, but I was too stunned to listen. Before all of this, my life was simple. Not perfect, but warm. I met Hassan when I was 24. He worked at a small construction firm, always coming home with dust on his shoes and stories about stubborn clients. I worked as a teacher at a local primary school, where children clung to my legs and called me Miss Amara with toothless smiles. We married after 2 years of knowing each other. Our house wasn't big, but it was ours. A small living room with cream-colored walls, a kitchen that always smelled of onions frying in oil, a bedroom where sunlight streamed through thin curtains every morning, and in the middle of it all was Ruxana. She had moved in with us after Hassan's father passed away. At first, I thought I was lucky. She cooked sometimes. She helped with laundry. She told neighbors how lucky she was to have such a respectful daughter-in-law. But slowly, little things began to change. She corrected how I cooked. "Too much salt," she'd say. She commented on how I cleaned. "You missed a spot." She sighed loudly whenever Hassan and I laughed together. But I told myself she was lonely. I tried harder. I woke up earlier to make breakfast the way she liked. I listened patiently to her long stories. I bought her warm shawls in winter. I wanted peace, and for a while it worked. Hassan loved his mother deeply. He trusted her, and I loved him enough to fit into the space she controlled. The only thing missing in our life was a child. Every month I waited with quiet hope. Every month, disappointment came like a slow ache. After a year, people began asking questions. After 2 years, whispers started. After 3 years, Ruxana's comments became sharper. "A woman's real value is in her children," she once said while watching a neighbor's toddler run around. I pretended not to hear. Hassan held my hand at night and said, "Don't listen to anyone. It'll happen." We went to doctors, blood tests, scans, medicines. Each time they told me there was nothing seriously wrong. Some women just took longer. Then one day, I became pregnant. I still remember the smell of antiseptic in the clinic, the way my hand shook as I held the positive test. Hassan lifted me off the ground and laughed like a child. Ruxana smiled too, but her eyes were cold. I miscarried 3 months later. I cried until my chest hurt. They told me it happened sometimes. A year later, I got pregnant again. This time I followed every instruction. I ate carefully, I rested, I prayed. Ruxana watched me closely. She insisted on giving me herbal drinks every morning. "This will make the baby strong," she said. I trusted her. Then I miscarried again. The pain was worse than the first time. Hassan was devastated. Ruxana held him while I lay in the hospital bed alone. "It's her body," she whispered loudly enough for me to hear. "Something is wrong." After that, things shifted. Hassan became quieter. Ruxana became more involved in everything. She started coming with us to doctor appointments. She spoke for me. She collected the reports. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was his mother. She wanted grandchildren. Who wouldn't? But after the second miscarriage, she began planting seeds of doubt. "Some women can never give children," she'd say softly when Hassan was nearby. "Maybe Allah has written something else." I would protest. "The doctor said we can still try." But Hassan's face would tighten. Ruxana would sigh. Doctors don't like telling hard truths. Slowly, hope in his eyes began fading, and I didn't even realize it was happening. Back in the kitchen that rainy evening, my whole world felt like it was collapsing. "You think I lied to you?" I asked him, tears streaming down my face. He looked away. "I don't know what to think anymore," he said. "My mother wouldn't lie about something like this." That sentence cut deeper than anything, because in that moment, I understood something terrifying. He believed her, not me, the woman he had built a life with, the woman who cried in pain, the woman who dreamed of holding a child. He believed her. Ruxana reached out and touched my hand. "Beta, we only want what's best for Hassan," she said softly. Her fingers were cold. "And what's best is honesty." Something in her eyes flickered. Not sadness, not sympathy. Something else. Something sharp. But I was too broken to see it clearly. That night, Hassan slept on the couch. I lay alone in our bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain and the ticking clock. My heart kept whispering, "Something is wrong. Something is being hidden." But fear was louder. What if she was right? What if my body really was broken? What if I was the reason everything was falling apart? I pressed my hands against my stomach and cried silently. I had no idea that this was only the beginning. That behind those medical reports, behind those miscarriages, behind Ruxana's gentle voice, the days after that conversation moved slowly, like I was walking through thick fog. Hassan barely spoke to me. He left early for work, came home late. When he did speak, his words were short and careful, as if he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Ruxana, on the other hand, became kinder, too kind. She brought me tea in the mornings. She asked if I was feeling okay. She even sat beside me one evening and stroked my hair like a mother would. "You are still young," she said softly. "You will find happiness again, Beta. Sometimes marriages don't work because Allah has better plans." Her words made my stomach twist. Happiness again? As if she was already preparing me for something ending. I tried to talk to Hassan. "Please," I said one night, standing in the doorway while he packed his lunch bag for work. "Let's go to another doctor, together, just us." He didn't look up. "My mother already took you to the best specialist in the city," he replied. "He confirmed everything." "But I never saw him say that," I insisted. "She talked to him alone most of the time." "She was just helping," he snapped. "Why are you always doubting her intentions?" I flinched at his tone. "I'm not doubting," I whispered. "I just want to be sure." He finally turned toward me. "Why can't you accept it?" he asked, frustration in his eyes. "Why do you keep giving me false hope?" False hope? Those words hurt more than the miscarriages. "I'm your wife," I said softly. "I would never lie about something like this." Silence filled the room. Then he sighed deeply. "I don't know who to believe anymore," he said quietly. That hurt the most, because I realized I was losing him, not because of something I had done, but because of something planted between us. Roxana started inviting relatives over more often. Aunties, uncles, cousins. They would sit in the living room sipping tea while throwing pity-filled glances in my direction. I overheard whispers. "Poor Hassan, such a good boy stuck with a woman who can't give children. Roxana is so patient." One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and heard my mother-in-law speaking on the phone. "Yes," she said softly, "the doctors confirmed she is infertile." My heart dropped. She fooled us for years. I stood frozen. She noticed me and quickly hung up. "Oh, Beta," she said sweetly, "I was just talking to your aunt." My hands shook. "Why are you telling people?" I asked. She sighed. "People will talk anyway. At least this way they will understand Hassan's situation." "My situation?" I whispered. She placed her heart over her heart. "We all suffer in different ways." That night, Hassan told me something that made my knees weak. "My mother thinks we should consider other options," he said carefully. "What options?" I asked, though I already knew. "Second marriage or separation." The word separation echoed in my ears. "You would leave me?" I asked in disbelief. He looked conflicted. "I don't want to," he said, "but I want children, Amara, a family." Tears streamed down my face. "So do I," I cried, "more than anything." "But you can't give that to me," he said softly. I felt like screaming, but I just sat there, broken. Over the next few weeks, Roxana became more controlling. She took over the house finances. She insisted Hassan put the property papers in his name only. "For security," she said. "Our culture is complicated." Hassan listened. I tried to speak up. "Our house is in both our names," I reminded him. "Why change it?" He replied, "My mother says it's safer." Safer for who? But he had already made up his mind. Slowly, things were taken out of my hands. The savings account, the documents, even my small jewelry box was moved to Roxana's cupboard. "Just for now," she said. I felt myself shrinking in my own home. At night, I would lie awake, staring at Hassan's back, wondering how we had drifted so far apart. I still loved him. I still believed in us. But every day he moved further away, and his mother stood right between us. One afternoon, I decided I couldn't live in doubt anymore. I needed the truth. I went to the clinic where Roxana had taken me last. The smell of disinfectant filled the air, just like before. I approached the front desk. "I want to see my medical records," I said quietly. The receptionist typed my name into the computer, her eyebrows furrowed. "I don't see any infertility diagnosis here," she said. My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" I whispered. She clicked again. "You had 2 miscarriages, yes, but all your tests were normal. The doctor's notes say you have a high chance of successful pregnancy." My legs felt weak. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded. "There is no report saying you can't have children." A cold wave rushed through my body. Then what did my mother-in-law show Hassan? I thanked her and walked outside, my hands trembling. The sun was bright, but everything felt dark. I sat on the steps of the clinic and tried to breathe. My mind raced. If the clinic had no such report, then someone had lied. Someone had created false information, and only one person had access to all my medical documents. Roxana. My heart pounded. Why would she do this? Why would she destroy my marriage? Suddenly, memories started making sense. The herbal drinks, the way she always insisted on handling reports, the way she whispered to Hassan, the way she pushed him towards separation. Something inside me snapped. This wasn't about concern. This was about control. But I still didn't know how deep the betrayal went. I stood up slowly. I wasn't just going to cry anymore. I was going to find proof. Because if she had lied about this, what else had she done? And why did she want me out of this family so badly? That evening, I walked back into the house with a strange calm in my chest. Not peace, not relief, but determination. Roxana was sitting in the living room, peeling apples into thin, perfect slices like she always did. The television murmured softly in the background. She looked up and smiled. "You're back early," she said. "Are you feeling okay?" I forced a small smile. "Yes," I replied. "I was just tired." She nodded sympathetically. "You must rest more. Your body is weak." Weak. The word tasted bitter. I went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, my hands clenched in my lap. I knew confronting her directly would get me nowhere. She was too careful, too smart. I needed proof. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I waited. The house grew quiet. The hum of the ceiling fan filled the silence. I listened to Hassan's breathing, slow and deep. Then I quietly slid out of bed. My heart pounded as I walked toward Roxana's room. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently. The room smelled faintly of rose oil. Her cupboard stood against the wall, the same cupboard where she had placed my jewelry box and where she kept important documents. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside were neatly folded clothes, a few boxes, and at the top shelf, a brown folder. I pulled it down carefully. My breath caught. Inside were copies of my medical reports, but something was wrong. Some pages looked newer than others. The ink was darker, the font slightly different. I flipped through them. There it was, a report that read, "Patient diagnosed with permanent infertility, chances of pregnancy extremely low." My heart pounded. I remembered what the receptionist had said. No such diagnosis existed. I compared it to the real reports. Dates didn't match. Doctor's signature looked shaky, like it had been traced. Tears welled in my eyes. She had forged them. My mother-in-law had created fake medical documents to destroy my marriage. I felt sick. But something else was in the folder, too. Property papers, bank statements, notes written in Ruxana's handwriting. I scanned one page. After divorce, Hassan will transfer house fully. Another line read, custody of children, future, Hassan only. My hands covered my mouth. She wasn't just trying to separate us, she was planning everything. The house, the money, even future children. It was all about control, about making sure everything stayed in her son's name, about pushing me out like I never existed. I quietly put everything back and returned to my room, my heart racing. I lay awake till morning. Every memory replayed differently now. The herbal drinks. What if they weren't meant to help? The miscarriages. Could she have caused them? The thought made my stomach twist. But I had no proof of that, yet. The next day, I called my old college friend Sana. She worked as a nurse in another hospital. When we met at a small cafe, I told her everything in a shaky voice. She listened carefully. Amara, she said gently, fake medical reports are serious, very serious. I don't know what to do, I whispered. You need copies of those documents, and you should see a lawyer. The word lawyer scared me. I had never imagined my life reaching this point, but I nodded. That night, when Ruxana went to visit a neighbor, I quickly went to her room again. I took pictures of every forged report, every property note, every bank paper. My hands shook the whole time. When I finished, I felt both terrified and strangely strong. For the first time in months, I wasn't helpless. I had the truth. A few days later, I booked an appointment with a lawyer. His office was small, with dusty shelves filled with thick books. He listened silently as I showed him the photos. His face hardened. This is fraud, he said firmly, and manipulation. Can she really do this? I asked. She already has, he replied, but you can fight back. He explained that forging medical documents was a criminal offense, that changing property ownership without my consent could be challenged, that emotional abuse mattered. I felt overwhelmed. But my husband believes her, I said softly. That's common in family manipulation, but the truth can change everything. As I walked out of his office, sunlight hit my face. For the first time in a long while, I felt hope. But I also knew the hardest part was coming. Facing Hassan, exposing his mother, risking everything. That evening, I cooked his favorite meal, lentils with cumin and fresh naan. The smell filled the house. He looked surprised when he sat down. You cooked? He asked. I nodded. We need to talk, I said calmly. Ruxana was in her room. It was just us. I placed my phone on the table. Hassan, I said softly, I went to the clinic. He stiffened. Why would you do that? He asked sharply. Because I needed the truth. I opened the photos. His eyes widened as he saw the real reports, then the forged ones. This can't be real, he whispered. Your mother made them, I said gently. He shook his head. No, she wouldn't. Look at the signatures. Look at the dates. Silence filled the room. I spoke to the receptionist. I continued. There is no infertility diagnosis. His hands trembled. Why would she lie? He asked weakly. I swallowed. Look at the other papers. I showed him the property notes, the plans. His face drained of color. He stared at the screen for a long time. Finally, he whispered, My God! The sound of footsteps approached. Ruxana stood in the doorway. What are you two whispering about? She asked. Hassan slowly turned to her. Ami, he said quietly, did you fake these reports? Her smile froze for just a second, but it was enough. For a long moment, no one spoke. The ceiling fan hummed above us, pushing warm air around the room. Roxana's eyes flickered from Hassan's face to the phone in his hand. Then she let out a small, tired sigh, the kind she always used when pretending to be hurt. "Why are you filling his head with nonsense?" she asked softly, turning toward me. I stood up slowly. "This isn't nonsense," I said. "These are fake medical reports. The clinic confirmed it." She scoffed lightly. "So now doctors are lying too?" Hassan's voice trembled. "Ami," he said, "the signatures don't match. The dates don't match." She walked closer and sat beside him. "You know how clinics are," she said gently. "They lose records. They make mistakes." I stepped forward. "And the property papers?" I asked. "Did the clinic make those mistakes too?" She stiffened. I held up the phone again. "You wrote these notes," I said. "You planned everything." Her face hardened. For the first time since I'd known her, the sweetness disappeared. "You shouldn't have snooped," she said coldly. That word, snooped, was all the confirmation I needed. Hassan looked at her in shock. "Ami," he whispered, "you did this?" She stood up abruptly. "I did what was necessary," she snapped. "Necessary?" "To save you," she continued, "from a woman who can't give you children, from a life of disappointment." I felt tears rise. "I destroyed my life," I cried softly. She laughed bitterly. "Destroyed?" she scoffed. "I gave you a place to live. I treated you like family. And this is how you repay me?" "You made him believe I was broken," I cried. "You made everyone look at me with pity." She turned to Hassan. "Beta, open your eyes," she said firmly. "This woman is clever. She is turning you against your own mother." He stood up slowly. "Ami," he said quietly, "did you forge the reports or not?" She hesitated. "Just for a second." Then she straightened her back. "Yes," she said sharply, "I did." My breath caught. "But I did it for you." "For me?" he repeated. "Yes," she said passionately, "you deserve children, a proper family, not endless hospital visits and false hope." "What about love?" he asked. "What about my marriage?" She waved her hand. "Love doesn't give you heirs. Property doesn't pass through feelings." The words felt like knives. "You even planned to take the house," I whispered. She glared at me. "You would have left anyway," she said. "Better to secure my son's future." Hassan shook his head slowly. "I trusted you," he said, his voice breaking. "I gave you everything." "And I raised you," she shouted. "I sacrificed my whole life for you." Silence fell again. Then he whispered, "You sacrificed my happiness too." Her face softened slightly. "Beta, one day you'll understand," she said gently. "No," he said firmly, "I understand now." He turned toward me. "Amara, I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down his face. "I let them turn you against me." My chest tightened, but the pain wasn't gone. It was too deep. Roxana crossed her arms. "So what now?" she said. "You'll throw your own mother out?" Hassan hesitated. I could see the struggle in his eyes. Years of obedience, years of respect, years of control. "I won't throw you out," he said slowly, "but things will change." She laughed bitterly. "You think she'll stay after this?" I met his eyes. "I don't know," I said honestly, because part of me was already broken beyond repair. Over the next few days, the house felt like a battlefield. No shouting, no fights, just heavy silence. Roxana avoided me completely. Hassan tried to talk to me constantly. He apologized again and again. "I should have trusted you," he said. "I was weak." I wanted to forgive him, but every memory hurt. The nights I cried alone, the way he doubted me, the way he talked about leaving. Trust once broken is hard to rebuild. Meanwhile, Roxana began playing the victim. She called relatives. She cried loudly on the phone. My son has been brainwashed. He chose his wife over his own mother. Soon, people started visiting. They whispered, they judged. Some believed me, some believed her. The house became filled with tension. Then, one evening, Hassan came home looking pale. My uncle went to the property office, he said quietly. They told him the house transfer papers were already filed. My heart dropped. What? I whispered. She had already started the process, he said bitterly, using my signature copy. I felt dizzy. She was going to take everything. Yes, he said bitterly. We rushed to the lawyer the next morning. He immediately filed a complaint. Forgery, fraud, attempted illegal transfer. Things moved faster than I expected. Within days, officials visited the house. They questioned Roxana. At first, she denied everything, but the evidence was too clear. The forged reports, the handwriting, the documents. Finally, she broke down. I only wanted what was best for my son, she cried. The officer looked at her sternly. What you did is a crime. Hearing those words felt unreal. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was the law. Roxana was taken for further questioning. Neighbors watched from their doors. Whispers spread like wildfire. The woman everyone respected was now exposed. I stood beside Hassan, shaking. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt numb. This was his mother, no matter what she'd done, and I could see his heart breaking. That night, the house was quiet, too quiet. Hassan sat beside me on the bed. I don't know how to fix this, he said softly. I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness. I stared at my hands. I loved you, I said quietly. I still do, but love alone doesn't heal betrayal. He nodded. I understand. For the first time, we were honest about pain, about doubt, about broken trust. But the storm wasn't over, because the biggest consequence was still to come, and it would change all our lives forever. The news spread through the neighborhood faster than I expected. By the next morning, people stood in small groups outside our gate, whispering as if our house had become some kind of story everyone wanted to watch unfold. I could hear them through the thin walls. Did you hear? The mother-in-law forged hospital reports. Such a respectable woman. Who would have thought? Poor wife. They almost ruined her life. Each word felt heavy. I stayed inside, sitting near the window with a cup of tea growing cold in my hands. Hassan had taken the day off work. He paced the living room like a trapped animal. They called me from the station, he said quietly. They're keeping her overnight. I nodded slowly. My heart felt strange. I had dreamed of justice, but I hadn't imagined it would feel like this, empty. That afternoon, a woman from the property office came to verify documents. She carefully checked everything. The transfer has been stopped, she said. Nothing will change ownership without your consent, Mrs. Hassan. Relief washed over me. At least the house was safe, for now. But something had already broken beyond repair. 2 days later, Hassan and I were called to the lawyer's office again. Roxana sat across from us. Her eyes were red from crying, her posture no longer proud. She looked smaller somehow. The lawyer explained the charges: forgery, fraud, attempted illegal transfer, medical deception, serious consequences. She began sobbing. I'd never meant to go this far, she cried. I was scared. I thought if she stayed, Hassan would never have children. I finally spoke. You never gave me a chance, I said quietly. You never trusted that I could be a mother. She looked at me. You lost 2 babies, she whispered. Tears filled my eyes. That doesn't mean I could never have one. Silence hung heavy. Hassan spoke slowly. Ami, you broke my marriage. She reached out toward him. I did it because I love you. No, he said gently but firmly. You did it because you wanted control. That word hung in the air. Control. She dropped her hand. The lawyer cleared his throat. There is an option, he said. Given that this is a family matter, charges can be reduced if an agreement is reached. Hassan looked at me. It was my decision, too. I thought about everything. The lies, the loneliness, the betrayal. But I also thought about the woman who had raised him, the woman who now sat broken in front of us. Justice didn't always mean destruction. After a long moment, I spoke. I won't push for the harshest punishment, I said softly, but she must leave this house and never interfere in our lives again. Ruxana looked up sharply. What? She whispered. You can't stay here, I said calmly, not after everything. Hassan nodded. I agree. She burst into tears. This is my home, she cried. It was mine before she came. And it was my marriage before you destroyed it, I said quietly. The room fell silent. Finally, she nodded weakly. I will go. A week later, Ruxana packed her things. No relatives came to help, no neighbors offered comfort. The same people who once praised her now watched in silence. I stood in the doorway as she carried her bags. For a moment, she looked at me. Her eyes held anger, then sadness, then something like regret. She said, I never thought it would end like this. I never did either, I replied. She turned and left. The gate closed behind her. And just like that, a chapter of our lives ended. The days that followed were strange. The house felt bigger, quieter. No constant criticism, no whispers, no tension, but also no warmth, no laughter, no sense of family. Hassan tried. He cooked sometimes, he brought flowers, he held my hand. He said, I'll spend my whole life making this up to you. I believed he meant it, but healing takes time. Some nights I still cried. Some mornings I woke up with heaviness in my chest. Trust doesn't return easily. A month later, I went back to the doctor, this time alone. The same clinic, the same smell. The doctor smiled kindly. Your body is healthy, she said. Miscarriages happen for many reasons, but there's no sign you can't carry a baby. Tears of relief streamed down my face. So I can still become a mother? I whispered. Yes, she smiled. There's every chance. When I told Hassan, he hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you, he cried. I was wrong. I hugged him back, but inside I knew something important. Love needs trust to survive, and trust takes patience to rebuild. Slowly we started over, not like before, but better, with honesty, with boundaries, with respect. We went for walks in the evenings. We talked openly about feelings. We even laughed again sometimes. But the scar remained, a reminder of what manipulation can do to a family. One evening, as the sun set, Hassan looked at me. Do you think we can really be happy again? He asked quietly. I thought for a moment. I think happiness is something we choose every day, even after pain. He nodded slowly. I choose you, he said. I smiled softly. I choose us. But life still had one more twist waiting for us, one that would test everything we had rebuilt. Just when I thought the storm had finally passed, life reminded me that healing isn't a straight line. It was a quiet morning. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, warming the tiles beneath my feet. I was making tea when a sudden wave of dizziness hit me. I grabbed the counter. My heart raced. At first, I thought it was stress, but then it happened again the next day, and the next. My chest felt tight, my stomach churned in the mornings. A small, fragile hope fluttered inside me, but fear followed quickly. I didn't want to hope again and be crushed. Still, I bought a pregnancy test. My hands shook as I stood in the bathroom, staring at the little plastic stick. The seconds felt like minutes. Then, 2 lines. Clear. Strong. I sank onto the floor, covering my mouth. Tears streamed down my face. I was pregnant. Again. This time, I didn't rush to tell anyone, not even Hassan. I was scared, scared to celebrate, scared to lose it again, scared that something would go wrong. For days, I carried the secret quietly. I ate carefully, I rested, I prayed. Finally, I went to the doctor. She confirmed it. "You're doing well," she said gently. "Everything looks healthy so far." Relief washed over me. When I told Hassan that evening, he froze. Then his eyes filled with tears. "Really?" he whispered. I nodded. He dropped the bag in his hands and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Allah," he cried softly. For the first time in years, joy filled our home. But happiness doesn't always come without shadows. A few weeks later, Hassan came home looking uneasy. "I ran into my mother today," he said quietly. My heart skipped. "Where?" I asked. "At the market," he replied. "She asked about you." I swallowed. "What did you say?" "That you're fine. I didn't mention the pregnancy." I nodded slowly. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt sad. "She looked different," he continued. "Older, tired." I didn't know what to say. After everything she had done, sympathy still crept in, but so did pain. A few days later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. Roxana stood there. Her hair was messier than usual, her eyes hollow. For a moment, we just stared at each other. "I heard you might be expecting," she said quietly. My chest tightened. Hassan appeared behind me. "Ami?" he said in surprise. She looked at him. "Is it true?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." Her face crumpled, tears spilled from her eyes. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." She reached out toward me, but stopped herself. "I thought you were weak," she said through sobs. "I thought you couldn't give him a child. I was blinded by fear." I stood silently. "I destroyed everything," she cried. "I broke your marriage. I hurt you." The words poured out like a confession. "I only wanted security," she said. "I grew up with nothing. I was scared my son would suffer." Finally, I spoke. "You didn't protect him," I said softly. "You controlled him." She nodded slowly. "I know." Silence stretched between us. The ticking clock echoed again, just like that rainy night months ago. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said quickly. "I just wanted to apologize, truly." My heart pounded. This was the woman who almost ruined my life. But now she looked small, broken, human. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "I just needed to say I was sorry." Hassan's eyes were wet. "Ami?" he whispered. She shook her head. "Don't," she said. "I don't deserve your kindness yet." She turned to leave. I watched her reach the gate. Something inside me stirred. Not anger, not fear. Something softer. I called out, "Roxana." She stopped and turned slowly. "I may never forget what you did," I said honestly, "but I don't want to live with hatred either." She nodded, tears falling. "I understand." "You will not be part of our daily life," I continued, "but I won't stop Hassan from seeing you." Hassan looked at me in surprise. I met his eyes. "We move forward," I said quietly, "not backward." Ruxana pressed her hands together. "Thank you," she whispered, and then she left. That night, Hassan held my hand tightly. "You're stronger than I am," he said. I shook my head. "I'm just tired of pain." Months passed. My pregnancy progressed slowly but steadily. Every doctor visit made me nervous. Every small ache scared me. But each time, the doctor smiled. "Everything is fine." Hassan attended every appointment. He never left my side. He learned how to cook healthy meals. He read books about pregnancy. He talked to my belly every night. "Stay strong, little one," he'd whisper. And slowly, I started believing again. Believing in life, in hope, in second chances. One evening, while folding baby clothes we had just bought, I felt a small flutter in my stomach. I froze. "Hassan," I whispered. "What?" he asked. "I think I felt the baby move." His eyes widened. "Really?" I nodded, laughing and crying at the same time. He knelt beside me, placing his hand gently on my belly. We waited. A few seconds passed. Then another tiny kick. He gasped. "That's our child," he whispered. Tears rolled down his cheeks. In that moment, all the pain felt worth surviving. But the final test of our healing was still ahead, and it would come in a way none of us expected.